Hey guys, Smo here. I had the chance yesterday to sit down with Rainer and have a great talk about mental health, how it affects our lives, things that we've gone through in our lives that have affected our mental health, and how we chose to deal with them. Luckily for me, I grew up in a support system that encouraged talking about mental health. My mom is a marriage and family therapist. And so in our family, if there were issues, if we were struggling with something, it was always accepted to be able to talk about it. And if there's one thing that I hope comes out of this conversation, it's that people understand that what you see on the surface is not always the case with people. Most of the time, you guys are used to seeing me like this, with big smiles on my face, doing what I love. And I'm here to tell you that that's not always the case for me. I have issues in my life that stem from being bullied when I was in middle school, for example, that affect me every day. And I'm comfortable talking about them, and I've been able to deal with them because I know that talking about my mental health issues is helpful and it's not something to be ashamed of. Now, not everybody has the support system that I did built into their family, and not everybody has those close people that they can go to. And as you'll see in this conversation, being over at Belfast, Rainer became that guy for me during the season to bounce some ideas off and talk to him about things that I was feeling. But I do encourage people that don't necessarily have that support system to go out and find it. There are plenty of organizations and professionals that are built for just this reason, and there is no shame in seeking help with any of your mental issues, however small or large they may be. So if this conversation can touch even two or three people and encourage them to get some help or to just open up a little bit and start that conversation about their mental health, I'll consider it a success. So here it is. I hope you guys enjoy, and I know me and Rainer are really excited about it.
All right, episode two, depending on the release dates of the original conversation with mom or this first. Who knows what's going to come first? But my name's Kevin Raine. I'm a potentially retired hockey player who, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, is facing a serious time of change. Nonetheless, I think everyone is experiencing the same thing. And so I'm currently embarking on a bit of a journey to uh, raise awareness on mental health in my communities as well as yours and as well as everybody's. And so welcome Jordan Smotherman to the Zoom call, which he has so generously accepted the responsibility for to edit and whatever, as I am super technologically challenged. I mean, the process this morning, even making my Keurig coffee, was an absolute nightmare. I've told you the struggles I've had in getting my audio video to my computer and beyond. And so anyway, thank you for being here, and I hope you're excited to talk a little bit about mental health, and maybe in a way that you haven't yet.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited to be here. I'm a little disappointed it didn't start out with a "Hey guys, Rainer here,"
Hey,
but
but it's not just me this time, you know.
that's fair. I said, "Hey
Uh,
guys, Rainer and Smo here."
yes,
But no, I'm excited to help you out on the technology side as well as just have some open conversation about mental health and the things we go through as athletes and the things we've gone through in our lives that have certainly affected the way that we act in our adult lives now.
exactly.
So just happy you wanted to include me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, of course, those watching who don't know, we were teammates last season and a little bit the season prior, as you kind of joined the Giants late. And, of course, so we get to see a lot of each other. And we're stallmates. And so, quite literally, we had the opportunity, if needed, to literally lean over or lean into each other for support in, whether it be a time of need or an opportunity to vent or literally just sharing a thought. And so um,
I think you
I,
lost a couple of cups of coffee because of my close proximity
well,
over
yeah,
the 2 years as well.
like
So
keep
it was
your
quite
arms and
close.
legs,
Yeah,
keep your arms and legs inside the vehicle at all times. In this
yeah,
case, like, yo, man, there's a lion there.
yeah.
But always welcome to cross that line and to share how you're feeling and whatever's bothering you. I know that, um, like I said prior to this, of course, just to tell the audience, like, we've discussed very briefly, had a 5-minute chat right before this, kind of maybe outlining a bit of a path that we want to take this conversation on, and maybe outline a few boundaries, right? Because talking about this stuff is not easy, but at the same time, I don't want to talk about it in maybe a cookie cutter kind of fashion, right? This conversation could be over in 2 minutes, and we could, maybe read the lines that are, oh yeah, if you need help, ask for help. And it's like, well, you know what, that's great. I appreciate that message, but, I'd like to get better insight into, maybe what you think the problem is with, people and not feeling well, and the problems facing communities with, stigmas around looking for help, or maybe why people don't want help, and maybe why you yourself have maybe seeked help, or things you go through and who you lean on and stuff like that. And so I guess let's bring it back to COVID, right? I mean, we're going along on our season. Everything's going, great in terms of, we're doing what we do, and, whether we're winning or losing or whatever, that's all, for a different discussion. But, as far as I tell the story, everything's going great. We're playing hockey, we're playing out our season, whether we're in a hunt or not. And then next thing you know, things kind of start like shutting down all around us, and we're sitting there and kind of describe that, as well as the changes you've gone through since COVID.
I mean, man, crazy times. Sitting in the room, I think it was that Friday morning. Our CEO comes in and he's going to tell us that the season's canceled, and for a lot of us, especially the guys heading back to North America, hearing that borders are going to close and flights are going to be canceled and all this stuff, kind of the 2-day transition to pack up an entire life into 2 suitcases and fly home and make sure that you could get back. And for me, with everything that was going on in the world and everything getting as crazy as it was, getting back to my family was a key priority to me. They play a huge role in everything that I do in life. And so for all this stuff to be happening and to be, across an ocean from them was tough. And to be able to get back within 2-3 days, sell a bunch of stuff and pack up and throw out a bunch of stuff just to be able to get out of there was quite the whirlwind.
Yeah, no kidding. And so you're talking about something that, we're very used to in packing up and being able to leave. And I mean, in talks with maybe you previously before, like I know for a fact that is hard on myself. I miss the people that I move away from, whether it's coming from home and going to Belfast, or then having to leave my family and teammates in Belfast to come home. But I think myself, think I'm going into my 7th year pro. You yourself have played for how many years now?
This will be going into 15 if there's a season this year. Yeah.
Right. So 15 years of living in different cities, different countries, different continents, seasonally. And, even now at home, right? I come home, I'm still out of my suitcases, man. Like, that's just how I've been. And I wouldn't trade it. But also, I do believe that there's something about having stability in knowing where you're going to be and having that certainty of your job, and the controllables that all of a sudden become uncontrollable, especially in the instance of COVID. And so, tell us a little bit about how you've adapted during COVID, and what have you been up to since you've gone home?
Yeah. So for me, I mean, just going back to what I just talked about, family is very important to me. And what you were saying about, for me, it was almost 9 full seasons being over in Europe for 8 months. I mean, I don't have any kids of my own, but my brother now has 3. His oldest is 8. So for the first 8 years of her life, 8 months of each one of those years, I'm gone. And that's time that I don't get to spend with her. That's development time and things that I miss. And now he's got, 2 more on top of that. And every year, the older they got, the more they understood Uncle Jay's leaving. He's going to be gone for 8 months. So those goodbyes on the way to the airport every year got harder and harder and harder. So for me, COVID actually opened up an opportunity for me to sit back and think, hey, as much as I love what I do, and I love being over in Europe, and I love my time in Belfast, there comes a time when you got to make some decisions in life um, that are tough. But in the end, for me, the choice to stay and be at home here with family was an easy one. And that's what has kind of propelled everything that I've gone through transitionally in the last 5-6 months here. I'm trying to finish up my master's program that I started while playing over Belfast. That's coming to a head here this week. My thesis is due on Friday, so I've been hacking away at that. But I've also re-upped trying to finish my undergrad stuff that was left unresolved, and so that's something I've added onto my list. Moved into an apartment here not too far from where I grew up. Signed a contract to play in Worcester next year. So for me, it's COVID it's had its ups and downs. I go through that wave of, all right, well, now I feel like I'm moving forward in life a little bit. I'm happy to be close to home, but at the same time, people deal with this pandemic differently, and my brother's family has dealt with it in a way where they've created kind of a very tight bubble. And so the way my life has to be, and out and about doing things, and I've got to be training like there is a season next year, so I've got to be in the gym, I've got to be working out, I got to be around other people, and obviously doing it very carefully with my mask, and making sure that I am staying as healthy as I possibly can, and avoiding any kind of uncomfortable situations with getting sick. But they're handling it in a way where they're staying in their little bubble. So I've had to kind of be on the outside of my family a little bit. So being home, I'm still kind of away. So that for me has been a really tough mental struggle, is not being able to be around family now that I've made that choice to kind of be here to be with family. So that hits me hard. Actually, even yesterday, was having kind of a tough day with that. It was one of the first days that I've just kind of been very sedentary, sitting at home, doing a lot of work on my school stuff. I was kind of like, oh man, it's really lonely. Like, kind of wish I could just go over to my brother's house and roll around on the ground and wrestle with his kids a little bit and have some fun. And so that to me has been kind of the hardest part of the last few months here.
Right. And so, of course, talking about COVID and the uncertainties surrounding it and the changes you have to make, and then being then able to accept that you're going to have to make changes and hanging on to what is important to you, which is family. Right. And so, say we're away playing, I know very well before you speaking right now that family is very important to you. And, I think both of us benefit from being ahead in time zone when we're in Belfast. Right. I know for a fact, I'll tell anyone that I love being so far ahead, because it means that if I'm having a late night and I'm staring at walls, that I can call home. Yeah. And they'll get to answer the phone like, oh, hey, how's it going? And then like maybe 5-10 minutes into this call, they'll go, isn't it like 4 a.m. there? And you're like,
yeah.
You're like, yeah. Yeah. Anyway, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. Yeah.
I need this, right? I need to talk to you. I'm not up this late by accident. And so, but yeah, the whole COVID thing's been a time of change, especially for me. I've got myself a job that is basically a new career. I'm seeing it as a summer job, but it could be a career. Like, I'm out here paving roads, and I think we talk about the importance of family and how much that means to us. Presence, the amount of presence I've found on the road, just at work, doing my thing, doing what I'm told. Put my head down, where, I think there's so much noise. And so if we can like allow our family to help us like calm noise and do things that we, are engaged in, right? Social media, all the news, all this, like a lot of stuff going on beyond COVID, right? The whole Black Lives Matter thing, the whole Epstein thing. Like what is 2020, man? This thing's like, it's an absolute mess. Yeah. But anyway,
just out of curiosity, what is the machine that you're driving on a daily basis? I see you posting videos inside of it. I kind of want to know what the whole thing looks like.
Right. So it's like it's a big, heavy machine that like simulates traffic. It's got rubber tires on it that are like smooth. and it just packs asphalt. And I got Kenny Chesney singing about summertime in my ear all cab ride for the 8 to 10 hours. I'm basically a truck driver, and I'm just eating all day long. And I mean, I don't know, man. It's just it's a job, and I'm in a team of 15 guys, right? Something I'm very used to. And so putting myself in an environment that I like, because I get to hang out with a big group of guys. And yeah, my first 2 months returning home, like you said, yeah, you're close to your family, but you can't go see anybody. You got to keep your distance, right? And so it's like, I'm in the same town. Yeah, great. I'm in Dryden. I'm back home, but I'm still on the FaceTime. I'm still not allowed to see you and connect with you. And it's like, man, like, I might as well be in Belfast. I'm stuck in the basement. I'm worried about everyone around me getting sick. And so, like, I'm 1,000 less miles away, but if it's still a phone call, well, then it doesn't matter how far away you are.
Right.
Anyway, but so the first 2 months at home were an absolute rut. It was awful. I'm playing video games. I'm not working out because there's no gym. I'm eating, if at all, you know what I mean? Because just routine, totally out of whack.
Yeah.
And the job, honestly, was inspired by a half hour of raking at camp, raking pine needles. And I was like, man, like, because I was focused. I had a job to do. I was asked by my aunt, hey, like, would you mind helping me at camp? And so, yeah, absolutely. I get to help you. Awesome. I love helping people. And I have one job that is on me to do right in front of me. And so next thing you know, I was like, this is the best half hour I've had. And it was because, like I said, I was present, I was focused, and I was just doing what had to be done. And, it was a task for me, but it was helping somebody else. And so I'm like, man, like, I have to rejoin a team, right? I have to do something. I have to get involved, and I have to, and so I'm like, all right, labor jobs. And so it was my uncle who, came, did like the visit on the driveway or whatever. And he had just purchased a like little kitty cat snow machine, like a little children's snow machine. And the guy he bought it off of was my boss. And so I get on the phone to him. I'm like, hey man, like, I don't know what work you got. I got to do something. I'm sitting at home and I'm going nuts here. CERB. And I feel like the CERB has been, obviously good. People need it, but it's encouraged people to stay at home, do nothing, maybe fall into the same ruts as I was in.
Yeah.
But so
I think you touched on an important topic too. I think routine is huge. It was for me at the beginning of this. I was going through a lot of personal stuff that I won't get into, but what kind of got me through each day of that was routine. For me, I was at my mom's for the first 2.5 months being back.
Yeah.
And it became get up in the morning, go down to the basement, figure out whatever workout I could throw in with a spin bike, 55-pound dumbbells, and a bunch of bands. And starting my morning every morning with something like that allowed the rest of my day to go smoother. And that routine was massive, and that got me through that. And it's funny, once I moved out and moved into my place here, I kind of got out of that routine and started to feel myself slip back into that rut a little bit. And I had to physically go on my computer and type up a daily schedule for myself to kind of get myself back into that feeling good about what I'm doing every day feeling. Right. So
by creating that routine and that schedule, you are outlining how you are going to go one step at a time.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you wake up in the morning and, using, both of our examples in, being home and not having anything to do, well, step one, wake up. And it's like, okay, step two, get up. And it's like, for what? What's step three? Is there a step? Like, no, because you haven't outlined that for yourself. It's like stepping foot into a gym without a plan. And you just kind of like, oh, well, I could do that. I could do this. I could do that. You've left yourself so many different options that you're kind of just looking at them all, right? Yeah. It's like, all right, decide what you're going to do beforehand to build these habits that will see that before you know it, you've created a routine for yourself and it's just what you do. And so I think it's interesting how, say like an older generation, maybe a less distracted generation, using the guys at work as an example, we've got it down to a T. Us younger guys, 9:25, 9:30. Well, time for Tim's sandwich, and we watch them, right? Because we're waiting on asphalt. There's a lot of hurry up and wait in what we do. So there's a lot of hanging out, a lot of bullshitting, so to speak. It's kind of like getting dressed before practice. You know what I mean?
I kind of think that every time I drive through a road construction site, you see like the 20 guys that are standing next to a truck looking around.
Man,
and then you see like the 3 guys that are working, but
I didn't understand it until I was in there, right? Because I was the same. We get stink eye from everyone that passes. They've waited how long at the end
because
of the zone.
it's your fault that the road is being repaved, and it's your fault that I'm stuck in 1-lane traffic.
It's my fault that the machines broke down that's keeping us from doing anything. It's my fault that the asphalt plant is not fired up yet. It's like, hey man, we're out here, we're waiting. All right, hurry up and wait. But yeah, and so I think it's interesting how, like I said, it's the distraction that's keeping us from creating these routines. And interesting that, the older generation maybe does it a lot better than we do, and I think we can learn a lot from them. But so yeah, routine. What else do we hit? Routine, quieting noise, presence. I guess things that you can do to encourage your routine and getting better, right? Because of course, as we just discussed, sitting around sucks, and you just get to listen to your own thoughts, and thoughts creep in and stuff like that. But as we discussed in our brief chat prior, we wanted to talk about mental health and maybe how early it should be monitored, and when mental health issues maybe come to be. And I know you're a big advocate against anti-bullying, or for anti-bullying, I should say. And I wanted to let you speak a little bit on that, and maybe some of your own experiences, as well as maybe how we should tackle these issues.
Yeah, as far as how we should tackle them, that's a tougher one. But as far as how it's affected me in life, it goes back to when I was, I think I was in grade 4 or 5. I was bullied pretty horrifically. Just little things every day, to the point where my mom's office, my mom was a marriage and family therapist, and her office was right across the street from school, where, I would leave during recess and just walk across the street and pop into her office crying, because of the things that I had gone through. And it's something that's always been an important issue to me through my life, because it's something that affected me and still affects me to this day. I still have some confidence issues when it comes to like going to a new team, or when it comes to meeting new people. I might come off as very easy to talk to and very outgoing, but in the back of my mind, there's always this little part of me that worries, what are people thinking about me, or do I fit in, or what do I have to do to get this person to like me? And for me, that all stems from my experiences when I was little. And it was an issue that I had put aside for a long time, until this season. It actually it came back in full force. Seeing a couple of young kids reach out to the team, parents reach out to the team on behalf of their kids, looking for some help and just looking for an experience to get them out of a situation. But 3 or 4 young individuals, one in particular, I won't mention names, that I've stayed in contact with, the family, and on a weekly basis, I touch base with them, and I talk with them. They actually sent me a lovely care package the other day from their vacation up to the North Coast. And
Nice.
but just to see the effect that some of these bullying situations put some of the effect that it had on some of these children, that I got to talk to on the bench before warmups, and I got to talk to after the games and things. It really broke my heart, to think that people are still going through things like that on a daily basis. And I feel like it's probably even worse these days than when I had it. When I had it, it was kids picking on me at school. It was kids, not picking me for the team and picking me last on purpose and leaving me out of things and calling me names to my face. And, when I went home, that was over with. But now, it follows you everywhere. In the case of a lot of these kids that were coming around the team this year, they were a little too young for the social media stuff and things like that. So it was very much similar to what I had gone through. But to see a 6, 7, and 8-year-old, their family have to move to get their child out of the school because the school wouldn't do anything about the bullying. Luckily, I grew up in a supportive family similar to that, where my parents, they were in the school trying to figure out what was going on. Unfortunately for me, the main child, Jonathan was his name. I won't go last names, but that name resonates with me. His parent was a teacher at the school, and
kind of
so
like the cop's kid who's bad.
Yeah, and the school, continued to kind of turn a blind eye to it. And the first solution was to move homeroom. So I was in a different homeroom, but it was a small Catholic school, a small private school. That we had 24 to 28 kids in our grade level, so it wasn't like you were escaping it. And it just continued to get worse and worse and worse. And eventually, and I certainly do not condone this, but it's it's an interesting story, and we can maybe cut this out afterwards if it sends the wrong message. But my parents were in for a meeting one day, and we'll keep this between us. We'll do a little edit with this one, but my mom and dad went in for a meeting one day with my homeroom teacher, and she said, Jordan's a lot bigger than Jonathan. I'll just leave it at that. My dad came home and he said the same message to me. He said, you're a lot bigger than Jonathan.
I appreciate that story so much. I think that we got to leave it in. I think it's awesome.
Fair enough.
I think
there are much better avenues to deal with it than that.
Absolutely. But I think the biggest take from me hearing that story, and that's the story you've never told me, is that like we've talked about the adversity we're facing in different situations, in the COVID and the moving and the whatever, you were helped by your parents. Maybe that wouldn't fly these days, but your parents advised you in a way that allowed you to see how you were, bigger, and you were physically bigger than your bully. And I think good on your parents for trying to help. Right. And like we just said, you can't be sending your kids, go put a hit out on that kid. You can't do that.
It's definitely not the message I want to send. I think you're right in touching on that. The message to be sent there is that parents need to be educated on this as well. Right. And I think about this.
Encouraging as you know what? Yes, you are you're down in this and this, but you do have this going for you. And I think that, this day and age, because everyone is trying to be so proactive in their anti-bullying and everyone being included and stuff like that, I think that in today's day and age, it would be quicker responded to. But I think the theme of your story is really genuine in the way that, have a read on your kids, have a read on how they're feeling, intervene, and then just talk to your kids. Like, you might have needed a voice, you might have needed encouragement, you might have needed, you exercised a lot of different options before you got to that one. Let's not.
I did. I think the key, and what I hear a lot when I talk to people who have been through this, people my age, people that are older who have been through this, what I hear a lot is that parents sometimes will dismiss those feelings from their kids, and that goes back to what you were just saying, that it's important to really listen. That your kid's feeling this for a reason. And in the case of, the families that I spoke with in Belfast this past year, they did. They did listen. They did listen, and they did everything they could to help their little boy. And to me, that's a wonderful thing to see. And I was lucky enough to have that. I wish that for everyone. And I just think it's important for parents to understand that their kids will go through some things.
Right.
And they will deal with things like this, and that they need to just be there to listen and support them through it. It doesn't help to dismiss the issue and put it aside. And I can't tell you how many people I've talked to about bullying in general who said, no, I came home and told my parents that I was being bullied. And, I came home crying and told my parents I was being bullied. And the response was, well, what would you do to deserve it? Or no, it's not that bad. Like, just move on.
Right.
Because the effects later in life are huge. It has affected a lot of my personal relationships. I have allowed people in my life to kind of walk all over me at times because of those insecurities that I have. I'm a very nice person. I consider myself a kind person. I give a lot, and as a result of that, people have taken advantage of it in the past, and I do attribute a lot of that to just what I went through and thinking, all right, well, it's not that bad. At least, I'm getting to hang out with these people. I'm getting to do things with them. And in the end, it took me until I was, what am I, 34 now? It took me until I was 29, 30 to realize that I had some toxic relationships in my life, and kind of relate them back to where they came from, and to not really have the patience for them anymore. And to be able to say, look, I don't need that in my life. And honestly cut a lot of those people out of my life as soon as I realized that was the case. So to me, such an important topic, and something that needs attention, because the later in life effects are so great.
So, like you talked a lot about, the dismissal, right? And a child having these feelings and bringing that home, and maybe the idea is that, maybe it is a case of, okay, it is early and it is a matter of like coaching that child through whatever. But, as we know, the seeds of doubt sprout, and then they grow, and then they get big. And then, we talk about maybe the seed of doubt that would have been planted in your mind at such a young age through these experiences that have continued to grow, and you've had to kind of like manage yourself, right?
Yeah.
And so, I think back to when I was in school, and, you talk about like picking a kid last, and you talk about, just the want to be involved, the want to be liked, the want to be accepted, and how, of course, like we're all over social media, and that's all that is right. You're putting this forward, hoping that somebody likes it, hoping that people appreciate what you're doing and appreciate you for you. And then, we see that the fear of, or the insecurity of maybe, having a little bit of low self-esteem. And so now you're buttering things up, going as far as to edit a photo to put online. Right.
Yeah.
But, as we're discussing, I think that all these insecurities, they come from a place as early as childhood. Yeah. And
in many different places. Mine just happened to be from, a very pivotal period of my development, that 4th, 5th, 6th grade time frame.
Right.
And it's carried with me through life. We might get cut off here because we got our 40-minute limit, but if that happens, I will set up another call with you.
Okay.
And we'll keep it going. There'll be a little intermission. We'll go part 2. I think we started at like 10:07, so we got about 6 minutes left in this.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, we'll keep it going. I think we hit some important points there. So advice, conclusion time, advice to any child going through anything at school, tell the people around you, your parents, your teachers, how you're feeling.
Do not be afraid to talk about it. There's no shame in talking about it. And what I realized a lot of times is people will think they're being bullied because of them and because it's their fault. It's not. That's the biggest message I can carry along, is that it's just not. Some people can be mean, and kids can be especially mean. and you got to be willing to talk about it. And as hard as it is in the situation, just try and take that step back and realize that it's not you. It's not anything you're doing. It's not anything that you can necessarily control at all times, but talking about it is going to make it better.
Absolutely. And I think going back to the dismissal point, right? If you're a parent and your child comes to you with something that you maybe think isn't that bad, well, it's not yet, right? And so when they come to you with a concern and they say, hey, this is going on, you don't think so much, hey, well, that's not that bad. Just think, well, you know what, let's talk about this to ensure that, you know, next week, next month, next year, you know, because you've had these, you know, talks, whether it be every couple of days or whatever, with, you know, how's this going? How's this situation? How are you handling that? Right? To be able to monitor the severity of whatever, at which point the parents or teachers or school can intervene. And, you know, as you said, people are mean. And, you know, that is them projecting their insecurities, their problems, their mental health issues, illnesses, whatever it be, on you. You know, and so there's, you know, I think then we're getting into maybe a side of, you know, accountability and, you know, all right, I'm miserable. How am I treating the people around me when I'm grumpy? Right. And so I guess we can kind of get into, you know, the fact that we were stallmates and
we both had our grumpy days, that's for sure.
Oh man, of course, and everyone does. You know what I mean? If I'm in a bad mood, but I have to be at practice, I have to be at the rink, and that means I have to sit within striking distance of you. And within
I had nobody on the other side. I had a wall. Murph was over there, but I had a wall. That's right.
So I had you on the ropes if I was really grumpy. But I think you know, I guess we can touch a little bit about like, I think it's interesting to hear from an outside perspective, not outside, but not for myself, you know, describe me on an off day. I dare you. We might have to cut this out. No, we won't.
No, honestly, man, you I think you're similar to me. Like you wear your emotions on your sleeve. It's not hard to tell when something's up.
It's all.
It's you face, body language. It started in the change. I could see it in the change room. If I was sitting in the change room when you came in, you'd enter the room differently. You know, most days when you're feeling it, you're coming into the room. Hey boys, what's up? You're saying hi to guys. You're joking around with guys, and
the indirect route to my stall.
Yep. There's that day where you come in and you are and you were typically, you're like, the time you would show up would vary too. You know, you would be my alarm went off 5 minutes ago because I didn't get much sleep last night because something was on my mind. So I roll in the room a couple minutes before meeting, come in, hair's a little frazzled. You're trying to get your ponytail going. You sit down and you're quiet. That was the biggest thing with you. I could always tell if something was going on, because I'm a chatty person. I could always tell within like the first 2-3 minutes of an interaction if you were having a day or something was bugging you. And at that point, kind of knew, just give him a space a little bit. He's got something going on. And typically it was kind of a post-practice question for you. Hey man, you good?
Right. Yeah, I think you're absolutely dead on. There's no doubt that when I am in a mood, I'm in here. Right. There's a lot of thoughts going on. It's all in here, and it will get out eventually. I think that's key to note is you know, in these moments of like chaos, I guess we'll call it. You know, push everyone away. Anyone that's trying to help me while I'm in it and like in it. I don't want to hear nothing. I don't want to hear any advice. I don't want to hear nothing. I think I'd like to say that although it's written all over me and I don't think it changes how I treat people necessarily.
No, that's a fair statement. You're just quiet. That was the difference. You knew kind of to keep to yourself in those days. And I will say one thing: if you were having a negative day, you didn't spread that negativity.
Right.
And
That's,
that I appreciated, being the guy who was cornered next to you.
yeah.
If you were the type if you were the type of person that that spread their negativity or had that impact on days like that, it would have been tough. But
Right.
you're very good at not spreading that,
Right.
which actually speaks volumes to you as a leader in general, because you can't always be on, and when you're not on, it's important not to bring the people down around you.
Right.
And thank you, thank you for that.
Oh, I like I said, I think you're very spot on. I think that what people can take from exactly what we're talking about is being able to see yourself, like step outside yourself for a couple minutes, ask yourself a couple of questions. You know, all right, how am I to be around? You know, how am I to be around when I'm feeling good? How am I to be around when I'm feeling bad? And if it is projected on the people around you, maybe hope that those people around you are ready to hear what you have. You know, I guess I'm not saying that you have license to treat people badly. I guess what I'm saying is, in those instances, if you are not feeling good, to make sure that when you are letting it vent or letting it whatever, example, you, right, I'm able to vent that to you and you are there to hear that. And then again, ask yourself, well, you know, like, am I mean? Am I this? Am I? And so how do you yourself, as the person asking these questions to yourself, well, how do I change that? What do I have to change? And maybe it is taking the time for yourself to, oh man, like I'm hard to be around right now. I got to cool off, right? Or the opposite, I have to speak to somebody about this. Who can I speak to? Who have I identified that I got to get this out, man. I got to get it off me, right? Yeah. And so you nailed it when you said that we're a lot alike. I had a couple different ways that we are imagined when we were kind of brainstorming the trajectory of like this talk or whatever. I think that we both are very critical of you know, how we perform, how others perform, how things are going, and we both hang on to a little bit too much that we can't control.
Yeah,
You know,
I know, absolutely. That's one of the biggest challenges I've had in my life, letting go of things I can't control.
Right, and so you know, I guess we're close to being cut off or whatever, but controlling the controllables is huge, right? And making the best of a situation is huge. And that's at practice, that's at the rink, that's at work, that's during COVID, right? What is controllable? Well, COVID ain't controllable. The circumstances of a league not going forward are not controllable, right? But us and our attitudes at home, all right, what can I control? Well, my routine's shit. I'm feeling bad. What can I do to change that? What can I control to make myself feel better? But hey, I appreciate you being like, you know, like I said, striking distance and both recognizing that. And
I mean, let's be honest. We talked about the one half, but it goes the other way too. I had plenty of days where I came in last year where I was in a similar mind state. So
yeah.
I feel like I got to ask you the same question. You know, how was I as a grumpy guy? What were my grumpy days like?
Well, and so, you know, getting onto what I just said, like you'd get grumpy when you lost sight of being able to control the controllables, right? And the details surrounding that are not ones I feel are up for discussion, and that's fine. But
we know.
but you were the same. You were also the same in the way that you were quiet. You were, you know, like you know how a person's feeling, especially when we're like that. And, you know, when, you know, there's times where we get into full blown conversation before practice, but then there's other days where a one word answer, right? I'm answering you, but I'm off into space and I'm like razor sharp with my words. And I'm like, you know, like, holy man, what are you looking at? Like, are you burning a hole through what you're looking at? You know, and it's, but then similar to how you would check in after practice. Right? I think that although maybe you had a bad day, your bad day wasn't completely like this, and that there were like, all right, well, now he's ready to talk a bit, and then like, all right.
Well, for me, a lot of times being on the ice, hockey is my safe space.
Right.
It always has been. Going through anything in life. When I was little, going through what I went through when I was little. When I was on the ice, that was my escape. I was free. My dad passed away when I was 22, and getting back to playing. I mean, you want to talk about being in a bad mental headspace and really struggling with stuff. That 5 years that followed that was a very tough period for me. But the one place where I was kind of always able to shut it off and be safe and away from it was on the ice. And so mornings where I would come in and I would be grumpy, getting on the ice, no matter how practice went or how I felt about the things on the ice, it was always just part of being out there and doing what I love that would ground me a little bit, and bring me back to a more approachable state.
Well, that, like we touched on presence, right? Like,
yep.
When you're on the ice, you are present. And if you're not, well, then something's really going on. And of course, there's even days where you bring the rink home, or you bring home to the rink, and they kind of cross. And I think as hockey players, or as anybody in anything, the ability to have something consistent, practice hockey every day, that allows you this chance to, all right, I'm closing all these other books, I'm shutting down all the rest of the noise, and I'm going to work hard at this for the next hour and a half, hour and a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I appreciate, like, I mean, although it might not seem like it, it was really important that you were there every day to,
I felt the same way, man.
Try to be a voice, and then that eventually led into, us deciding like, hey, man, like we gotta like see more of each other away from the rink.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah.
Like I got to talk to you a little bit. I got to lean over and whisper a little bit, but like I gotta sit down. We gotta lay it all out, and I gotta let you hear it.
Yeah.
And I guess getting on to more of like the lifestyle of what we do, we got a lot of free time. So much free time, which as we discussed in this conversation, that's what killed me and decide was what made me get a job, because I had enough of doing nothing. Right, very good at doing nothing, but
we're very practiced at doing nothing.
Very practiced.
We're well versed in the arts of doing nothing.
Resting.
Yes.
Right? Resting. And
how'd you put it in the text earlier? Professional time wasters.
Dude, is that not what like?
Yes.
We get to do an hour or two of very high physical exertion every day, and then the other 20 hours are, you better have a hobby, and oh man, you better have a project, or you better have an idea, because then you get home at lunchtime, as you know, spar wrap. Wow, miss the spar wrap.
Yep.
And then it's noon, and you're like, what are we gonna do all day, man? We got from like 12 to 12, or 12 till 3 or 4 in the morning, depending on what kind of program we get on. And then it's easy to go across the bridge and have beers, and then have a few more beers, and so the problem with free time is that it's easy to do what is easy and what is fun, and like we can't drink beers every day. It would be fun, but like we have ourselves to take care of. That's not good for us, and that's not good for me, both mentally and physically, if I'm boozing all the time. And so what are we going to do with our day? And of course, that's where the whole personal best idea was born, in the Dock Cafe, right? Afternoons in the dock, just chilling, sipping coffees, working away, typing away, just staying busy, staying focused on a goal. But so we then decided like, hey, let's have a dock day.
Yeah. I mean, man, I look forward to those. That was, especially going back to what we were talking about. Like I knew when I was having a rough day, I'd be like, hey man, like, what are you up to today? Want to have a dock day today?
Yes.
And it was going to be that like that hour. And some way we sat there sometimes for like I think 2-3 hours occasionally it got up to.
Right.
But no matter what we talked about, it was oftentimes hockey related.
Right.
But we also, I mean, it was oftentimes personal related, and just being able to have, and I very rarely in my career can say that I had, you know, a person in the room that I felt comfortable going to and being able to talk about all that stuff, and not worried about, because, you know, you're a strong enough personality, and that I could talk to you about stuff that I was dealing with or issues that I was having, and it wouldn't bring you down.
Right. Right.
Well,
It gave me a chance to stop worrying about mine, right? Like,
yeah,
you know,
exactly.
like, you know what? I'm sick of this going on. Like, let's hear about you. I got it.
And I think it brings up an important point that, you know, we didn't necessarily talk about touching on, but yeah, as athletes and people that are in the public eye, and no, we are not in the public eye like, you know, the true professional athletes of the NHL, NBA, MLB,
Right.
you know, football players. But I think it gets lost. I think this goes in general, for mental health as a subject, but you know, we deal with stuff as well. And you talked about, you know, occasionally we bring hockey home, and that can be tough. But we also have lives outside of the game that
Right.
can creep in. And I think the most recent example I can think of, and certainly kind of an extreme example, is, you know, Tuukka Rask leaving the Bruins in the middle of a playoff run
Right.
because of things going on with his family. And yes, the guy has a job, and yes, you know, he gets paid a ton of money to do his job. But, you know, just listening and seeing comments online and listening to friends talk about what happened, and with having no idea, for somebody to leave their team in the middle of a playoff run, and you would understand this, and people who have been on teams in a playoff run, especially on a season where your team, you know, destroyed the league and had a good chance to win.
Mm-hmm.
For you to leave, like, something has to be going on. Like, that's not a light decision. And to hear people kind of going off on him, you know, what, like, how could you do this? And I think it's just important to try to, we needed these Doc Cafe days,
Right.
you know, because you had personal stuff going on at home. I had personal stuff going on at home. And whether we talked about that or not, just to be able to talk about anything kind of helped with that. And I think it's very important for people to realize that sometimes the ups and downs of an athlete, you know, they stem and they reach much further than the rink.
Right. I thought it was really interesting there how you talked about the idea that even though we maybe didn't talk about the issues, talking around the issue about everything else that might be going on allowed you to kind of calm yourself to maybe a point where, all right, well, now I myself personally can go handle the actual issues that are happening. Right. And so, you know, you've got intense feelings around the rink, and intense feelings around home, and intense feelings around your relationship. And, well, if you don't want to discuss your relationship, but I'm able to calm your mind with what's going on hockey wise, well, now you've got enough gas in the tank to be able to go about your own way of dealing with your personal issues. I think that's an incredibly powerful idea.
My personal life is my mom. She's my go-to. Right. I'm a mama's boy all the way. There's no denying that. But I can, in extending your thought there, like, I'd leave our conversations at the dock, and I'd go home and I'd call my mom. And the things that I wasn't going to talk to you about. You got
me for this issue, and you got mom for this issue.
The things that I wasn't going to share with, you know, my teammates, because, you know, personal life and those things, I do like to keep them separate. But, you know, getting one thing out of the way, and that one thing probably being a bigger issue more because things outside were making it seem bigger. You know, put me in a mindset to, like, you know what, I got to talk about this stuff, to be able to call my mom, like, hey, this is what's going on. This is what I'm struggling with. This is what I'm dealing with outside the rink. And it was extremely helpful in that secondary degree, and moving past those great conversations that we had, because it got my creative juices flowing. It got my, like, I need to talk to people about the shit that's going on in my life juices flowing. And it did. It helped. It helped quite a bit.
Well, I think momentum is a super powerful thing, right? It goes back to the idea of like, if you don't have a routine, well, then you do nothing. But if you have a step-by-step process that you've laid out for yourself, then, well, now you get everything done.
Yeah.
And, you know, completing one task leads into completing another, which encourages completing another and another and another. And if you got all these open tabs, right, you've got your, like we said, you got these different issues that are all open. You know, I don't know where to even start, dude. But then we go to the Doc Cafe, and it's not like we have anything planned. But then now we're there for 2 hours. We're just talking openly, right? I'm not there to judge anything you have to say. You're allowed to tell me anything. I mean, so long as it's within like the law, right? Like, you tell me whatever the hell you want.
I don't know, Rainer. I might have helped you bury a body if you
Oh, but you know, like the ability to just start talking about anything, which encourages more talk, right? And so going back to the bullying thing, right? Starting a conversation with your child, them starting one with you, and then, well, now you're talking about something completely different. Now you're talking about this, and now you're talking about that. Next thing you know, like maybe you and your child have been talking for an hour, and maybe that kid used to be the kid that, oh, what'd you learn at school today? Nothing. It's like, oh, but now you've opened conversation, right? And that's the whole point of everything that we're doing here is, you know, I hope that this conversation between you and I will open conversations beyond this one, right? Both between you and I, with me and other people, you and other people, and then just people seeing it like, you know, like, I'm going to call this person, right? There's a lot of noise going on. Who do I have in my life that will help me quiet things, simplify things, and maybe boost you into that state of momentum where like, all right, I'm back. Like all I needed was a good chat. Now I'm kickstarted. Now I can tackle this. Now I can tackle that. Now I can tackle this. And so,
yeah, and it's so important to note that what's on the surface is rarely ever the true story and the full story.
right.
I mean, you look at, I'll use myself as an example, super engaging with people, super engaging on my social media throughout the season, and super outgoing with fans, and, you know, reaching out to people and talking with them, and always in a happy place at all these events and all the things that we do. But you wouldn't know from that if you were to just study me from that presence, and you wouldn't know that I was going through, you know, some personal stuff this year, and that there were some things behind the scenes that I was having a hard time with, and you wouldn't understand that, and you may have been able to pick up on it because you were a little bit closer to me,
Right.
and you would see kind of the day-to-day swings and things like that. But it's so important to just look for those little cues in people.
Right. I think speaking for myself, I could be in it, but then when I'm forced to be in a situation where I can't necessarily be, I'm able to put on the mask, put up a front, like project myself in a way that is maybe a little further away from what I'm actually feeling or actually doing, right? Like if we have to be, you know, for example, after a loss and we got to go talk to fans, right? Like, you know, there's the loss, but then there's, you know, the feelings after the loss, and there's the feelings about the loss, and there's the whatever. But then whether it be in an interview or to a fan, it's, yeah, you know, we gave it our all, but whatever. Meanwhile, you and I were going, this fucking joke, you know what I mean? Right.
Yeah.
And so you and I get to have our conversation to get it out and vent or whatever.
Yeah.
Where, you know, to you know, a fan or to somebody outside that is, you know, the room, I guess, right? Kind of behind closed doors, so to speak, which would be our team and how we operate within our team and stuff like that. But then to go and have to say, yeah, you know, like it's all going to be good. It's all going to, you know, and so, but all the while doing that, kind of helping you get out of the negative state. And so I think, speaking for myself, that if I'm in a bad mood and I start having conversations, or I have to get out of this to be involved in a social scenario or whatever, I think that's really good for me. It helps me put that aside so that maybe when I'm back home and back alone, maybe I can reopen it, but with a different attitude.
Yeah.
And so, So yeah, I'm so scared of this recording button going away on us. This has been on.
It will. Maybe it's an hour that we get, and we're at 11:06. I think we started at like 10:07 or 10:08.
Okay.
But we'll, like I said, we'll start up another call.
Yeah, I want to just refer back to what we had to make sure we're not missing anything. I think we've kind of covered everything that we wanted to cover, at least in this one. I think that once we're off the call, we're going to get on to it. Dude, I think we did really good. I think we have a lot more to say.
Yeah, no, there's always more to talk about when it comes to this type of stuff, and I think it's also important to say I'm no expert when it comes to dealing with this stuff.
Very
This
important.
this comes from my personal experience and how I deal with it, how I have felt the best way to deal with it is. That's going to be different for everybody. Everybody's going to have different experiences. I'm not a psychologist yet. We're working on that. I'm working on finishing that. That's in the works.
Nice.
But it's this is my personal experience, how it's affected me, how I choose to better my situation, and if that works for somebody else, and somebody else can take a bit of this conversation from you and from and use that to help them be more open about talking about their issues, then that's all I can ask for out of this.
Yeah, I think we're in such an interesting time where information is so available and so accessible, and the ability for us to say whatever we want and then put it out is easy. But I think you touch on a good point. We're not professionals, but we do have a lot of experience. And I think everyone does have experience to a degree, but I think that we do a good job of being able to express, our thoughts and whatever. I don't think anything that we've said is wrong. But it is the fact that we don't have,
I don't have a license. I don't have a license to tell
people. Right. I think it's
this
super
is the
weird.
right way to do this.
I think given the amount of people that everyone has to discuss mental health, right? Everyone needs to maintain a healthy, fit, active physical lifestyle. Yet we say, oh, well, you're not a personal trainer. Okay, well, you can't train anybody. It's like, well, I've been doing it for 10 years or plus years, ever since I was, how long ago was it that I was 15 working out for the first time? I've learned a lot.
I wish I could say it was 10 years.
And so 15. Maybe I've apprenticed, maybe I've, through my experience, I've gained maybe a self-apprenticeship where I do have a lot of knowledge in that, but I'm technically not allowed to give advice. But yet it's something that everyone should do. And so is there enough professionals who are eligible to be able to tend to all these people that need that? And then same in this field, we're talking about, not everyone is a psychologist, right? Not everyone does give good advice, but people, like ourselves, who feel we have a lot of experience, a lot of good input, good insight. How do you draw a line to being able to advise somebody or not advise somebody? I guess weighing how much help is needed versus how much help there is, and deciding that we're kind of in between that. We're not psychologists, but we're not, and so kind of helping who you can to the degree that you can.
Well, I just think the idea of getting the conversation started and getting people comfortable talking about their mental health. And we don't have a huge platform, but we have enough of a platform that,
right.
That some people are going to see this and they're going to think, okay, well, these guys are professional athletes. I've gotten to play a game my entire life. Right. My life is great. I have no complaints. I've been very blessed to do what I do. Right. It's taken me all over the world. I have friends all over the world. You're sitting up in Ontario. I'm here in Boston. And we stay in communication on a regular basis. I've got friends that are still playing over in Europe that I talk about. So my life is on the surface level. It seems awesome, but we all go through stuff, and I've been through a lot of stuff in my life, and I go through stuff on a daily basis. Like yesterday, I was a grumpy bastard all day yesterday. And people that I would talk to on the phone, I'd have to be like, hey, look, I'm sorry. I'm just having an off day. If it's coming out towards you, I'm really sorry about that. I'm feeling down today. I'm feeling sad about this whole situation. Right. No matter who you are, what situation you're in, you could be, making $10 million a year playing professional football in Europe, and you're still going to have issues, and you're still going to have things that it's okay to talk about, and it's okay to acknowledge that you're going through. And I think that people need to be aware that everybody has problems, and it's okay. It's okay to have those issues.
Right. None of that tough guy shit around here.
No,
Like
no,
don't bury anything, because it's that grows, that sprouts, and then you
Nope.
hang on to this and you hang on to that, and you hang on. Next thing you know, you've got a collection of all these little things that you hang on to that are why you are depressed or anxious.
Yeah.
And
find
sad
those people
or
and
mad.
find those people in life that you can lean on with stuff like this.
Exactly.
And if you don't have those people in your life, go out and find them. Go out,
Right.
make some new friends.
Well, and then that's getting into, finding what help is available within your community.
Yeah.
Within organizations that are prepared to help.
Exactly.
And so lean on the people closest to you, open up conversations, always feel free to share how you're feeling, and coming from us, right? Like we feel like shit sometimes, right? We don't feel good all the time, right? Uncertainty, self-doubt, all these things, like, everything that we can lap back around on and talk all over again and continue to talk over again. Seek help if you need it. There's absolutely no shame in needing help. We've leaned on each other for help, and we've leaned on the people around us for help. And I don't think I've mentioned in this, and that I was seeking help last year. I went to a person once a week to discuss my issues, to kind of help gain a professional perspective and a little bit of coaching, and that was really good. I called her the chiropractor to the likes of yourself or the others around me, because she put my head back on straight, right? And so that was, and that's a full discussion itself, getting into how important that was for me and how important it was to, talk to somebody. But, even when I was feeling good, I went and talked to her, because I really believed in the idea of showing her all sides of me, letting her build profile on me, to then, maybe if I've gone through a few different cycles, her say, well, yeah, you had a few good weeks, but do you see what has got you back into this low cycle? And,
I respect you even talking about that too, because I know a lot of people can almost feel ashamed of therapy and seeking help, and there's no reason to be at all. It's a wonderful tool, and there are plenty of services out there that can help. And for me, I was lucky enough, like I said, my mom was a marriage and family therapist, and she was for 30 plus years. So I had that built into home. And so I, from an early age, was taught to think that the therapy was okay and it was a good thing, and talking to somebody and going to seek help from people was okay. And it wasn't admitting that I was weak. It was just a way to make myself stronger.
Exactly.
So I applaud you, especially for bringing that up in the conversation, man. And I think that it's something that people should hear, that everybody needs help, and everybody can get it from different avenues. And there are a lot of different avenues to get help from.
Right. Man, feels good talking about it. I feel better than I did before the conversation, and I'm excited for people to hear this, and excited for them to gain perspective, and excited to hear some feedback. And I think something that are the next steps in what I'm doing is understanding what programs are available, right? And so if people do need help, what is available? And so excited to continue to do a bit of research as to what is available in my community, for my community, to further encourage these conversations, further encourage people seek help, and encourage that everyone's continuing on their journey and pursuing their personal best.
Absolutely, man. Well, thanks for having me today. I really appreciated chatting with you.
Hey, man, I appreciate it too. Thanks so much, and we'll talk very, very soon.
Sounds good. I'll see you, bud.